You are now listening to Overthinking It or Not podcast. Welcome to Overthinking It or Not podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Leah.
And I'm Donald. And today we'll be talking about the new era of Black representation on mainstream television. From Black Lightning to Star Trek Discovery to The Good Fight to Blackish to Grownish, there is a new era of African American representation. What does this mean? What are your thoughts? And where is it heading? Let's find out. Today specifically, we're going to be talking about Black Lightning. Black Lightning is about this stellar superhero school principal by day who's trying to reclaim his community, get it back into order, and he's like the original kind of Cape Crusader Superman, so to speak, but the Black Superman of his neighborhood that has since disappeared for years at the expense of his own, for the purposes of his family. Characters include Cress Williams, who plays the main protagonist and superhero dad, Black Lightning, Christina Adams, who plays the mother and loving wife, and a stellar doctor and researcher, Lynn Pierce, Anessa Pierce, the oldest daughter, played by Nafessa Williams, China Ann McClain, who's the youngest daughter, played by Jennifer Pierce. Peter Gamby, also known as Uncle Gamby, is played by James Remar, and Lady Eve, who plays the evil villain Nest, by Jill Scott. So, Leah, what are your thoughts on Black Lightning?
So, first of all, I just want to say there's not going to be any spoilers in this episode. So, if you haven't seen Black Lightning yet and you still want to get caught up, or if you're only on episode 4, something like that, you'll be okay. We're going to be talking about Black Lightning in general. I like the show. I've seen all the episodes at this point. I've caught up on them on the CW app. And I really like the show. I think it's really entertaining. I think there's a lot going on. I think that it's not the type of TV that you usually see. And I watch a lot of TV, whether it be on Netflix or on cable TV. And this is an original show, it feels like. I haven't seen something quite like it in some time. So what do you think?
I completely concur with you. I mean, it's definitely... It's one of the things I appreciate about the show, but it reminds me of this show that used to come on CW when I was younger, Static Shock. But the son, Virgil, played the main character, and it was a cartoon. And he was the superhero with Static Shock, and he had electric powers. And it seems like a non-animated version of that, but is on fleek. I mean, is on 10, right, to the umpteenth degree. And it's really dynamic, really great characters. Both daughters played by China McClain and Nafessa Williams, they have superpowers. I mean, there's lots of twists, turns, and interesting insights. You never really know what's lurking around the corner. And it also has that kind of cheap cheesiness of a superhero show, but at the same time, it makes you fall in love with it.
Yeah. I can definitely say one of the things that I really appreciate about the show is that we're diving into an alternative reality. And usually when I think of alternative realities, I'm thinking we're going to create a world in which we don't have the same problems, right? But in Black Lightning, we have the same thing. We have cops out here killing Black folks. We have the tragic loss and the dependence on Black men and becoming these athletes as a way to better their lives for themselves and their families. We see a lot of the same kind of tropes that we see in real life, which is really interesting. But what I really like, though, is that in this alternative reality, we also have heroes with superpowers. And that seems to be something that enlightens and ignites our more creative side and our more imaginative side. And I think the great thing about that is that it can press us to think more creatively in real life.
I can definitely see that. Do you really think that it's an alternative reality as much as it is an enhanced reality? As with any art form, And the age-old question is raised: does art imitate life, or does life imitate art? Perhaps it's more of a hyperbolic insight into the everyday superheroes of our neighborhood. Let's not forget Chris Williams, the Black Lightning, plays this character who's a school principal by day, and he's trying to take back his neighborhood as well by shaping the future of the youth. Much like several individuals, from Jeffrey Canada to Michelle Reed to
Okay,
take
Michelle
your
Reed
pick.
for
Oh,
real.
I'm just they're attempting, whether or not you agree with their methods, they're attempting to try something new. They're attempting to say this model doesn't work, or attempting to try something a little bit different to take their neighborhoods or their communities, the space that they work in, to whatever it is that they think that next level should be. And that's the same thing that the dad does. Like, let's try to shape the future by affecting the youth and by helping the youth. In addition to, you may not have superpowers and you can go out and zap people, but you can zap their minds with love, knowledge, and appreciation.
I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, it's one thing to think about how do the superheroes in Black and Lightning compare to the real life superheroes, but are you saying Jeffrey Canada and Michelle Reed are superheroes in real life? Because if so, we're probably in a lot of trouble.
Well, well, in so far as they are trying to do, they're trying to they're not waiting for Superman. They're their own Superman. They're trying to not wait for someone to come around and be helpless. We're not talking about. I'm not getting into the policies. I'm not commenting on their policies. I'm comment or their politics. I'm commenting on the ability to take something that they see a problem with and to try it in a different way, or and try a different approach to it. So, in a sense, yes, they are. Yeah, I would say they are.
I have to disagree with that 100%. I think just because you're trying something different or something new doesn't necessarily make you a superhero. And I think even more importantly, it's important that we are choosing our superheroes ourselves, not people who end up on whatever magazine or who's the most well known. So when we think about Black Lightning, right? There's this crazy dynamic between whether or not the people in Freeland, and that's where this whole story takes place in a city called Freeland. They go back and forth with their love for Black Lightning, right? So on one end, they really love him. They can't wait for him to come and save everyone. But then with the swiftness of the wind, the news can report another thing and suddenly people are questioning and attacking Black Lightning. And so the question is, who is our superhero? I don't think Jeffrey Canada and Michelle Reed even come close to what Black folks need. Michelle Reed's not even Black herself. But in terms of thinking about who's going to be a superhero for Black folks or even people of color, as now we see a lot of intersectionality, we see a lot of people building bridges and collaborating together everywhere between these different protests and showing up to each other's events and supporting. And there's all these quotes saying, the revolution will be intersectional. So with that being said, I think that's a question we have to ask ourselves is who is our hero? Who will be our hero? I think it's been quite some time since we've had someone step up that we could kind of follow and agree and carry on their mission. And what are we going to get done without a leader? Because I think right now we have all of these influencers, people on social media. What's that guy's name? Jesse Williams? Is that his
Not
name? With the
not
blue
quite
eyes?
sure. Not quite sure there.
What's his name?
I am not quite sure there. That social media, I'm a follower of it, but not as in tune as perhaps maybe I should be.
Well, the guy from Grey's Anatomy, right? He's got this huge following because he speaks out on issues that affect the Black community. But this is not really someone that you're gonna follow, right? This is someone who's more like an influencer. He's gonna repeat the message. He's gonna get it out there, and people are gonna listen to him. But like, when's the last time we actually had a leader that we could follow that actually had our interest in our own liberation and freedom in the front of their minds while they're out there politicking? I haven't seen it in a while, and I know for damn sure it's not Jeffrey Canada and Michelle Reed. But that's
Uh,
here nor there.
no, I
I
think you
think
raised an
thinking,
interesting point. I have to jump in here. Like Leah, let me jump in. Don't get me wrong. By all intent and purposes, I'm not saying that I am speaking to nor commenting on their politics or policy. And yes, I understand that it's not. They are not completely inseparable from their politics and policies. Of course, they're a part of that, but it's about self select, I think the intent does matter. To the second point, as about intent, their intent is to do something different. Not every person who comes up with a new idea is necessarily a superhero, but they're intending to try to affect change for a system that they're saying, whoa, it is failing us, something is drastically wrong. Let's try a different approach. This is what my approach is. Now, when you begin to assess that, whether or not the assessment shows that they're wrong and maybe they should therefore correct course, at least now you have even more data point to show that their way or method does not work. Their intent was well-meaning, much like the love-hate relationship that Freeland has with Black Lightning. They like him 1 minute because he's stepping up, he's doing something, okay, he's powering people up and giving people a sense of, you can do this too. This is all of our community. I'm here on your behalf, but as well, it is your community. But at the same time, when things get a bit rough and they try to suppress Black Lightning and they see what's the cost of standing by him, it then causes them to even turn their own inner instincts to want to reclaim their community and to reclaim their streets. And so much like, Jeffrey Canada, and again, I was just using them as examples. Honestly, first two that popped into my head in that space of education, trying to draw a parallel to that of beloved principal, played by Chris Williams, Black Lightning. And so I really feel like we do have to give them some sort of credit. As for the first one of self-selection as well, some people have said, and look at the hundreds, thousands of kids that have graduated from Canada's schools, maybe the ones that haven't, yes, that's part of the story too, but the ones that have that are much thankful for the work he has done. They are selecting him as a hero. Look at how their lives have been changed and enhanced. He may not be a hero for everyone of Freeland, or in this case, of New York City or of the education system, but he is a hero for some.
Okay.
Well, that's all you're going to give me there is an okay?
Yeah, that's all I'm gonna give you because we're gonna just disagree and we gotta agree to disagree. I think sure everyone has an everyday hero. Mama's a hero, daddy's a hero, friends are heroes, teachers are heroes, your advisor, your mentor, your uncle, your barber. All these folks are your everyday heroes, but that's not who I'm talking about right now. So can the principal like Jeffrey Canada be your hero? Yes, but I'm not talking about like your local hero. I'm talking about on a wider stage. I'm talking about in terms of changing our reality. Right now, we continually have these same problems over and over and over again. And what's apparent is that we don't have a leader. Even if we were to take it beyond ourselves, beyond just the Black folks in the United States, but to think about those larger liberal, progressive, democratic, whatever you want to call it. There's not anyone at the forefront right now who's on it the way that we need them to be, right? People still on this old stuff, people still doing things how they've always been done, and as a result, we're suffering from it. I think right now we have a lot of movement with all the young folks out here protesting gun violence, but you know, I just want to know where were all these folks protesting gun violence when it affected Black kids specifically, right? So what we have is the same types of problems that are reiterating themselves through time, and what I don't see is solutions. So when I think of a superhero, when I think of someone who's going to make the impossible possible, that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for someone who's trying to bring new ideas, someone who's well intentioned. The Constitution was well intentioned, but there's a difference between intentions and the actual consequences. You can't stay on intentions. It doesn't matter what the intentions are. What matters is what actually happens. And when you see that your intentions are not matching what's needed, at some point you have to go back to the drawing board. You got to start over. But I don't see that happening. So we got to agree to disagree on this because I think for me, that's one of the things that I'm looking for. Who's going to be our superhero? How are we moving forward in this whole craziness that's happening right now? Everybody's more worried about like porn stars who might have been mistresses to the president and all these other things. But who's going to be our superhero?
Here. I hear you there, and we'll agree to disagree. I think you raised some fairly an excellent point. But I leave you with this question insofar as this point goes: why not you? Why not you be our superhero? And
I
that's
thought
to
about
all of
that
our listeners,
myself.
and that's to you too. I
I
mean,
thought
we
I
got
thought about
to stop
that.
looking for our superhero, and we got to put on the black cells. And I'll leave you with that.
I think
We agree to
everybody
disagree, but why not you?
I think everybody has a part to play. Everyone has a role. And I go back and forth with that myself, you know. Um, and I don't have an answer for you. Sometimes I think, oh, I could do that, and other times I think, that's not my role. That's not where I come in. So it depends. We'll see in time though. Hopefully it won't take too long. Because we really need some help now. Like we need to get something together now. You know, like now. Like we can't be waiting. But again, this is why I like shows like Black Lightning, and this whole idea about alternative realities. Because again, it pushes us to think about our actual lived experiences, right? When we feel so constrained by our current reality, we got a place to escape to, where the typical rules of society don't apply. But it also makes us think of the possibilities, right? And that's why we're having this whole conversation right now, because we're trying to think of the possibilities and we want to know who's going to be our hero in real life. So that's one of the things I really appreciate about this show, and shows like, you know, Black Panther, where you're seeing this whole other reality again, and it makes you feel good. It makes you start thinking about the possibilities and what's possible.
Absolutely, I would completely agree with you. With the Black Lightning didn't ask for permission when he decided to become a superhero. It was his calling, and the daughter always constantly says the same thing. Like, look at the gift that we have. It's everybody has a part to play, and you have to choose what that part is. Then you look at China McClain's character, and with China McClain, she's just like, I didn't ask for this. Maybe it's a curse. Maybe it's a gift from the devil. This isn't what I necessarily want, and it was been thrown on me. So everyone you have to choose again. And that's what I didn't. It's an end with intention, and you constantly do have to keep going back to the drawing board. Actions don't matter, intentions, but you also have to end with an intention. Maybe I can do something good. It is my intention to do something good, and this is how I'm going to manifest my goodness, and I'm going to do it. Black Light, I'm just trying to take my community back, but by taking this community back, I'm now giving people this community hope. Maybe this little child, little Johnny, is now going to go move someplace else, and he'll have that same sense of somebodyness, that same sense of take it back, and that same sense of responsibility and self-efficacy bestowed upon him, that he will become the next Black Lightning of wherever he may be. It is one of the things I truly appreciate about the show. In addition to the multi-dimensionalism of the characters, of seeing how Black people are shown in a different light. It reminds me so much of when I read about the W.E.B. Du Bois 1900, the exhibit of American Negroes in the World's Fair that was held in Paris, France. It was absolutely dynamic. It showed Black stills of families, professionals, attorneys, in the Black Negro, as we were called at that time, in a well to do, just everyday life. Like we are more than the misnomers and the slurs and just the hatred in which our name and the color of our skin was embroiled. When you thought of the African American Negro, the Black person, whatever it is we may have been called or being called at that time, and to this day in some contexts, is it's shown us in a positive, upstanding light. And that's what I love about this show. It shows the truly multi-dimensional aspects of not only African Americans, but of a person, and it shows us in a great light. We are both our own. We're victims. We're our own villains. We're superheroes. We are more than one thing. We are more than a conqueror.
Yes, that's one of my favorite things about the show, actually. So, all these folks are multidimensional. So, they're not just one thing. You got, you know, Cress, he's this principal and this superhero Black Lightning, and he's off in the night and he's trying to save the world. And at the same time, he's got a balanced family life. And I love that, you know, he has that role as like a Black man, right? How he's saving the world, also being a stellar principal and also being, you know, one of the main support systems for his family. Of course, the other support system being his wife, Lynn Pierce, who I absolutely love. And what we've seen is we've seen the daughters, right? The older daughter, Anissa, the younger daughter, Jennifer, both go through their own, you know, issues at school, dealing with boys. Anissa's definitely on the more radical side. She's on the more revolutionary side. I probably identify most with her. You know, she's out there marching, at protest, organizing, as we see a lot of young folks today doing. And then you have Jennifer, who's just like almost your typical teenager in high school. You know, she's got this love interest going on. She got these other girls at her school bullying her, but she's not getting bullied into a corner, right? She's standing up for herself and she's defending herself, and she's doing it well, right? But When it comes to the wife, Lynn Pierce, she's this dynamic, intelligent uh, doctor, right, and researcher, and she's also this great mother. I don't know if I should call her a wife because I'm not entirely sure whether or not Lynn and Black Lightning are still married. Do you know? Did they divorce? Do you know? It's clear that they're not together anymore, but it's unclear whether or not that's like an official separateness or.
Yeah, I've been confused by that. I don't know if it's a separation because I know she left because he was Black Lightning and it was too much for her. But then they have they're co-parenting really well. But then at the same time, she's over more and more. He's trying to woo her back. I don't know if it was a separation and now they're working through it. If it was a divorce and they are back together, I don't know if they're still married. That's kind of just the tension I have. It's a really weird, like, give and take tension between them that they're definitely in love with one another, but I'm not sure if they're
That's
separate,
clear.
working through it, dating it, divorced, or what.
Yeah, they're definitely in love with each other. But the one thing that I don't like, okay, about Lynn, as fly as she is, as smart as she has to be more than just a wife and a mom. And that's what I'm going to say. Everybody else on the show has something else going on. Everyone else in the show has a villain that they have to fight. Everyone else in the show has, some kind of discovery or self realization, right? Where they're just starting to define themselves or starting to understand themselves. Everyone except for Lynn Pierce. So I have a theory that Lynn Pierce is actually going to be like the top Dawn at the end of the day. Like I have this whole theory. There's no way that every character gets to be multidimensional except for the one person who gets relegated as a wife and a mom. That's just not 21st century. That's just not where we at. Right now, we're on a whole feminism wave, okay? Where women are lighting and leading the way. There's no way that Lynn Pierce is just going to be a wife and a mom. She has to be more than that.
But let's go back to this whole ideal of what it means to be a superhero because I think it really speaks to that. Let's not forget she's a top-notch researcher from what I can tell, and I say that because obviously she runs her own lab. And in running your own lab, you don't just get your own lab unless you do something super stellar. She does something at the intersection of RNA, DNA, genetic development, human genome, immunology sort of work, right? I know that's a mouthful because we're not quite sure what it is that she does, but we know she's doing something on the molecular level in research, and she's good at it. Running your own lab, you don't get funding unless you're really good at what you're doing. And in saying that, she may be the one to crack the code. She may figure out what the cure is for green light, which is the new hit drug that's on the street that has the side effect of giving people superpowers. She may figure out how to neutralize them. And her hero role, her villainhood will be the whole kind of subtext, the precipice on which the whole show is kind of teetering on, right? Like if you have a cure, then how now you can combat not just the villain on a one-on-one level, but on a systematic level. We're talking about doing exactly what Black Lightning is doing when he's putting on that costume, but she's going to fight the whole system systematically. So I think she may very well be a Dawn, but she may be the Dawn in a good way, like the Dawn who actually delivers the Dos Ex Machina, who delivers Freeland and makes it free.
That could be true. All I know is she better be something more than just a wife and a mother.
I'm gonna take issue with you saying just a wife and a mother. I mean, what's wrong with being just a wife and a mother? You have two superhero daughters, superhero
Okay, we said no
former husband,
spoilers.
husband. I mean, it's a lot too. It's a lot that she's doing. Like, heck, she deserves the award right now for balancing all that she does. That's truly worth better.
Okay, so and there goes again your everyday superhero. But guess what? We are living in an alternate universe. This is not the time for everyday superheroes. You telling me that everyone else going to be flying, blasting off, super strong, super fast, throwing off like fire out of their hands? What are other things that people do? Frozo from what is that? The Incredibles. He can freeze stuff. All these superheroes that have superpowers. You're not gonna sell me on okay. Let's let the wife and the mom be the everyday hero who has no powers, has nothing, but she's smart, she's intelligent, and she's really good at balancing her job as being a wife and a mother. No, I'm not feeling it. Let somebody else play that role. Let the neighbor play that role. Let the assistant principal play that role. Let somebody else. But you don't let the leading grown ass black woman on the show be super normal. It's a problem.
Well, I guess that's where we're gonna have to agree to disagree once more. However, to your point, then, since you have all these superpowers that you mentioned that characters have and things that they can do, from freezing people to flying to being super strong to shooting fires out of their hand, teleportation, if you could have one superpower, what would it be and why?
If I could have one superpower, I would say that it would be resourcefulness. And that meaning that whenever I needed something um or just wanted something either, even that I can just close my eyes and make it appear with like a snap, just like that. So if I need, I don't know, a bag of money, just like that, there's a bag of money. If I need, I don't know, just anything, if I need to get from one place to another place, suddenly I just have a drone, hoverboard, whatever that will get me there, just like that. I think that would be the dopest superpower, to have that level of resourcefulness, not only because you can provide for yourself and get what you want, but you can also help others. So if you happen to see like a homeless person on the street, snap. Suddenly you can tell them, here's the keys to a spot you can go live in while you get yourself together. That would be awesome.
Okay, okay.
And what about you? If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Mind control. I would want
Okay.
the ability of mind control to view myself, and I would actually, I would go in so far as saying my super character. Are you ready? What my
Yes.
super character would be? I would call myself the Guardian.
The
I wouldn't
Guardian.
be the Guardian. Now, hear me out. I would not be a superhero that you're gonna see every day, or that's fighting vigilante, so to speak. I'm gonna have a little sass, a little sarcasm, a little flavor. But I'm going to be the guardian because I'm going to be the guardian for people, keep the rails on society, not really even questioning every decision made. But when society goes, the things are just going a little too far. Use my mind control powers from my mind to your mind and bring them back. So, baby Hitler, we know this baby Hitler, we know this is Hitler. I'm going to control your mind. We're going to stop this. The war's over. Just when in those extreme circumstances, to still let free will be free, still let people work for it, still let things develop, but just prevent in like an insurmountable amount of suffering where almost hope is broken and dissipates. At that point, the guardian will step in with his mind control ability.
Well, I got to push back on that because I'm wondering, when does insurmountable destruction start? Does that start at the level of like genocide, or does that start at the level of like this mass incarceration problem, or the problem with poverty and the cycles of poverty and people not being able to get out of it? Like, how severe does the problem have to be for you to step in?
Well, the guardian steps in depending on the circumstances. So the facts would predicate when the guardian comes out.
All right, so cycle of poverty. Where you coming in? Is that something you stepping in on? Is that part about free will and capitalism and people's will to make money and to be greedy over people's lives and humanity?
Well, that's a systematic change. I mean, we're talking about the. I completely agree. I think there's issues with any sort of form of government, and capitalism definitely, as we have seen it in the last 20 to 50 years, has gotten. I would say 50 has just been very vicious, vitiating, and destructive, especially for historically low income communities and minority communities and communities of color. And so to that point, I still do think that there is a point like where it's Jim Crow laws, where it's kind of vicious or invidious or disparate discriminating, the guardian steps in to the point where it's, people still have to take a stand at the same time. Much like Freeland with Black Lightning can do all the good in the world, but then you still have the lady upstairs who, when asked what her name was, it was car note, rent, and electricity is trying to kill Black Lightning for the reward. So no matter how good you may do, there's a point where the spectrum kind of, you are so good or good that people are still going to view it as being evil. Like there has to be that will when the people cry out, and not in because of their just because of their conditions, but when their conditions cry out and the people want and they're galvanized, like a movement is beginning to happen. So right, that's when the guardian steps in, when you show that the will of the people is there, and that it's the right thing to do. Like I said, it's circumstantial. I can't go through. I can't pinpoint the exact moment. It would depend on where it is, when, who. I'm not going to go around and just control all 456 minds, or all 500 and excuse me 400 534 mind of the U.S. Congress. I mean, there still will be free will. I want people to understand it. I'll change hearts and minds, minds less so than hearts, when necessary.
Hmm. Okay. So that was really interesting. That was really interesting. I think I don't know if I'm still wondering if you coming in for the people suffering in poverty. I got kind of like a round the block answer, but I'm gonna assume that's a no because it's not severe enough.
Let me stop you there real quick. Don't assume. Don't You shouldn't assume, because it's
You are now listening to Overthinking It or Not podcast. You are now listening to Overthinking It or Not